Did you miss us? Did you miss us? Welcome back to Red Wolf Roundtable, the first Red Wolf Roundtable episode of this semester. It's been like 5 months since we've sat down with you to do an episode. It's been close to a year, I think, since we did an episode right here in the studio. But man, it feels so good to be back, and I hope that you were excited to come along on this journey with us, because we're about to cram in about 3 to 5 months of sporting news into about a 30-minute episode. That's exactly what we're going to do today. So I am your host, Alex Galbraith. Today, going solo, of course, with all the COVID protocols going on and people, some being on campus and some not being on campus. Our normal guests haven't been unable to join us this year. Been kind of all over the place. So today I'm riding solo, like I normally do, and just like I do over on the Gridiron Expert as well. And if you want extra analysis for what we're about to talk about today and just sports coverage year-round, make sure to go give that a look over on YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, and of course our official website, thegridironexpert.com. Just a little shameless plug there. Let's go ahead and get started with the real show today, Red Wolf Roundtable, and let's start with Arkansas State news. I mean, it's been 5 months. A lot has happened here in Jonesboro, just on this campus, and I want to particularly touch on football. And that's obviously our main strength, our main focus area, 99% of the time on this show and certainly on the Gridiron Expert. But there was some big news a few months ago, and that was Arkansas State parting ways with Blake Anderson as their football coach. And before we dive into what that was, I want to say that I was very, very proud and impressed with how well Blake Anderson and the university kind of handled this parting. You know, I think everybody sensed that a change was coming. I felt like the football program was getting very stagnant. You know, Arkansas State, they want to contend, and they should contend for some bout titles, but for the last few years, they've been unable to do that. Teams like Louisiana, Appalachian State, now Coastal Carolina were kind of making their ways up the ranks, while Arkansas State was falling down. And despite the big upset over Kansas State early in the year, they finished with a losing record. It was time to part ways with Blake Anderson. And I think Blake Anderson felt that way too. I think he felt like it was time for a fresh start. He had been spent 7 years here in Jonesboro. Obviously, we knew that he lost his wife, Wendy, just a few years ago. And that was a very heartbreaking and devastating thing for him to go through, obviously. And I think it just felt right to kind of move away from this city to go get a fresh start. And he did that, going way out west to become the new head coach at Utah State. So both these parties really handled this separation very well. Arkansas State worked with him when it came to the buyout. There was no hard feelings. It was brilliant. It was brilliant. And we, of course, wish Blake Anderson the best of luck. Absolutely world-class act as a head coach, but also just as a person as well. But you look at Arkansas State now. It is a business. Football is a business. And they had to go on the run quickly. They had to go find themselves a new head coach quickly. And they landed on Butch Jones. Butch Jones. And that name may sound familiar to some, especially for those of you here in the South. And that's because he was the former Tennessee head football coach. The former Tennessee head football coach most recently was the assistant to the head coach at Alabama. Served under that position from 2018 to 2020. Butch Jones is 84-54 all-time as a head coach. Was at Central Michigan, was at Cincinnati, was at Tennessee. So he has experience at the Power 5 SEC level, the highest level you can really get to in college football. Also has experience at the Group of 5 level, which is what Arkansas State classifies as. During his time at Tennessee from 2013 to 2017, he went 34-27. The Volunteers gave him the boot, despite getting back-to-back 9-win seasons, I believe, in 15 and 16, 2015 and 2016. The crazy thing about that is Tennessee probably is regretting doing that. Tennessee would kill to have 9-win seasons right now. They fired a man who had brought a little bit of stability to their program, and now Tennessee's an absolute dumpster fire because they were giving their recruits money in McDonald's bags. They were paying their recruits illegally. Jeremy Pruitt out, their AD out, and they had to settle on Josh Heupel from UCF. Again, that's a story for another time. But I'm just saying Butch Jones probably shouldn't have gotten fired. But it's a good thing he did. If he wasn't, he wouldn't be here now in Jonesboro. And I don't think people understand how big of a hire this is for Arkansas State. I don't think they get that. You are bringing in a guy, first off, that again has SEC coaching experience, head coaching experience from 2013 to 2017, came out of Tennessee with a winning record. Not an easy place to win, obviously, but came out of Tennessee with a winning record and did well there. Had them in the top 25 for about 2 of his 5 years there. When you look at this hire, many people say, I'm skeptical of it. I don't know, can he really do well here? He didn't do that great at Tennessee. Let's keep in mind again, guys, SEC, Sun Belt, there's a big difference there when it comes to level of competition, even though the Sun Belt is on the rise. But the one thing that sticks out to me more than anything for Butch Jones is not his experience at Tennessee. It's the fact that he has spent the last 3 years on Alabama's staff serving under Nick Saban. Serving under Nick Saban. And, you know, a lot of people will laugh at the title. They'll say, assistant to the head coach. It's like Dwight from The Office, assistant to the regional manager. What's he doing? Going out and grabbing, you know, Nick Saban coffee, doing his dry cleaning? No. Nick Saban is an absolute genius. Nick Saban is a genius because he picks up these head coaches that are getting fired from their jobs, or head coaches that aren't really in the running for a head coaching position anymore, brings them on to learn under him because he realizes, hey, you wouldn't have had this head coaching job if you weren't good enough. Butch Jones would have never been hired at Tennessee, Central Michigan, Cincinnati, if he had not been good enough. Saban brought him on as a consultant, and for 3 years he was there, and he just won a national championship this last year in 2020, in the middle of this entire global pandemic. So Nick Saban brings him on, and Butch Jones has learned under the greatest head coach in college football history, and that does a lot for a man. Look at how well Steve Sarkisian has done after learning under Nick Saban. Did extremely well there as offensive coordinator, got an NFL gig as offensive coordinator for the Atlanta Falcons, came back to Alabama, now he's the head coach at Texas. Same can be said for Lane Kiffin, a very immature, wild, young coach, came to Alabama, matured himself. Under Nick Saban, he had to be mature, otherwise he wasn't going to have a job. Revolutionized Alabama's offense. They were so focused on running the ball. Lane Kiffin got in there, changed it more to a pass-happy offense like we've seen the past 2 years with Tua Tagovailoa and Mac Jones. And now Lane Kiffin went off and got himself a job at Florida Atlantic, and now he's the head coach at Ole Miss. Every single year we'll be playing Nick Saban. And then, of course, you look at Saban's coaching tree, so many guys that have been assistants or assistants to the head coach that have gone on to have head coaching careers. Mark D'Antonio, legendary head coach at Michigan State. Jim McElwain went off to Central Michigan, ended up being the head coach at Florida, where he played Nick Saban a few times in the SEC championship. Jimbo Fisher, who is now the head coach at Texas A&M. Saban's coaching tree is unreal, and anybody that serves under him is going to come out a better man and a better coach. And that's exactly what has happened to Butch Jones. And now Arkansas State has him. It's unbelievable. So now you're bringing in a guy that has that SEC experience, has that tie to Nick Saban. If you don't think that's going to do wonders for recruiting, you're mistaken. And we've already seen that. Butch Jones has done a phenomenal job of recruiting in the early signing period. He did a great job of utilizing the transfer portal, bringing in James Blackman, a quarterback from Florida State, going to bring immediate competition to Lane Hatcher, whose job is far from secure. If Blake Anderson was still here, it would be Lane Hatcher's job to lose. Actually, it would probably be Lane Hatcher and Logan Bonner, probably alternating QBs like we did all year. But now that the brand new head coach, it's a brand new fresh start. Lane Hatcher's job is not secure. He's going to have to battle it out against Blackman. Butch Jones is going to come in, keep a very similar offense to what Blake Anderson was running. The defense is going to be a major step forward, something they have to do if they want to contend against Louisiana, Coastal Carolina, App State, all of which make the trek to Jonesboro this upcoming season. Arkansas State is in a position to win now, not later. We always say with brand new head coaches, you got to be patient. Be patient, give them time. 3-4 years, maybe they'll hit their stride. That's not the case for the Red Wolves this year. With the big dogs coming to Jonesboro, hopefully with a full stadium, assuming we can get there now, a few months from now, hopefully we'll be past this mask mandate. Hopefully most of us will be vaccinated and we can actually get back into stadiums again. It's going to be a different year. The Red Wolves can win the Sun Belt this year. This was the best hire within the conference, better than Kane Womack at South Alabama, better than Terry Bowden at Louisiana Monroe. This is one of the best hires, I think, in the entire country out of all the brand new head coaching hires. And you don't get to say that very often about Arkansas State football. So a big, big day, big last few months, I would say, for the Red Wolves. And obviously we cannot wait to see what the success is and how this all transpires out on the gridiron here in just a few months. So that was a brief run through, guys, for the biggest news from Arkansas State football. Again, over the last few months, Butch Jones has been on the job for a while, and he has hit the ground running. But we're going to kind of shift gears from that. We're going to take a short break, and we're going to come right back, picking it up with more football, but this time in the NFL. Huge free agency news and a huge announcement. This came out yesterday that you do not want to miss. We'll be right back.
At Arkansas State University, our students push the limits of learning. We collaborate with NASA in the clouds and discover new species below the sea. We grow healthier plants and plants for growing heart tissue. We preserve our history and teach the future. We work to ensure every red wolf flourishes, both in the wild and on campus, with faculty and staff dedicated to student success. Ready to push your limits? Go to astate.edu to join the pack.
When I was 10, my mom got deported. We had a difficult time, and I feel that's why I didn't get to finish school. My husband is really supportive in a way that he pushed me to go back to school.
She wants to have a career so her kids can look up to her.
They both keep me motivated to go to school, and they see that if I do it, like, they can do it too, you know? I feel that everything's possible.
Find free adult education classes near you at finishyourdiploma.org.
Well, college football is my main stitch. College football is my main area of expertise. But I just love football in general, as most people do down here in the South. And today I want to talk, in this next segment, I want to talk a little about the NFL. March, to me, is almost as exciting as the regular season in the NFL because of the free agency period. There's so many twists and turns, brand new deals, players switching teams, and you really get an idea of which teams could be legitimate contenders and which teams are going to take a step back. You can get an idea of that in the month of March alone. And we're still about a month out from the NFL draft, which is also just as exciting. So we're taking a look at the NFL right now, and the first order of business I think we have to talk about is that big announcement we alluded to before the break. And that is that Drew Brees, the legendary quarterback of the New Orleans Saints, finally announced his retirement just yesterday. Just yesterday, he announced his retirement, and it was something that we all expected was coming. I'm actually surprised it took him this long, right before free agency really began. I think he, in a way, did the Saints a bit of a disservice there by not making his announcement a little bit earlier. But the moral of the story is he is now retired. He will not be coming back. He's not going to pull a Brett Favre where he says he's retiring, and then a few weeks later he says, oh, I'm coming back. Drew Brees is done with football. And in a way, it is a happy occasion, but also a sad occasion for the sport. Because Drew Brees was and is one of the best quarterbacks to ever play the game of football. Not only was he an incredible player out on the field, but he was absolute class act on and off of it as well. He was a great husband, he was a great father, and did so much for the New Orleans community. I mean, when Hurricane Katrina came in 2005 and devastated New Orleans, it was the New Orleans Saints that I think gave a lot of those people hope and kind of lifted that city back up. You look at their Monday Night Football game against the Falcons and how packed that stadium was, how emotional that game was. And that was, what, in 2006, late 2005? And just how electric that atmosphere was for the Saints. And Drew Brees, remember, he didn't start his career with New Orleans. He started his career out west with San Diego. He wasn't originally supposed to be in New Orleans, but he got traded there, got picked up in New Orleans, and within a few years had won them their first ever Super Bowl, Super Bowl 44, back in the 2009 season, was named the MVP of that Super Bowl over the Indianapolis Colts. You look at his stats, 80,358 yards, ranks first in NFL history. 571 touchdowns, ranked second in NFL history. He and Tom Brady were just going back and forth for who was going to be on top of that leaderboard all season long. And because Brady apparently appears to be immortal, Brady will end up being first in that category and very well could be first when it comes to passing yardage too. But again, it's not all about the numbers. It's not all about the stats. It's about the type of player you were and the type of person you were. And Drew Brees was excellent in both those categories. And I can say from a guy that really wasn't even a diehard Saints fan, I always had this inclination, always this almost obligation to root for the Saints. I always wanted to root for the Saints, not because I loved them, I loved the city, but because I liked Drew Brees. And so Drew Brees will certainly be missed. But I have no doubt. First off, he's a first ballot Hall of Famer. But no doubt that he's going to continue to make an impact on the sport and continue to make an impact on the city of New Orleans, possibly even greater than he did when he was playing for the team. So I think from the bottom of my heart, I got to say thank you, Drew Brees, because I grew up watching you, and you gave me, even though I wasn't a diehard fan, some of the greatest and most memorable moments that I can always remember when it came to football. So sad day for the NFL, but also a happy occasion as well. Drew Brees finally retiring after nearly 20 years in the league. All right, moving on to that, free agency. We talked about free agency. Teams are switching, players are switching teams, and some players are inking huge deals. Huge deals. And the first one I got to start with is Dak Prescott. And this one just makes me laugh. All right, this one was unbelievable. For the last 2 years or so, Dak Prescott and the Dallas Cowboys have gone back and forth with these contract negotiations. Basically, Dak saying, I want to be paid a lot of money, and Jerry Jones, the Cowboys owner, saying, well, hold on, let's pump the brakes here. We do want you, and we are going to pay you, but you're not Deshaun Watson. You're not Tom Brady. You're not Drew Brees. You're not going to get this much money. Keep in mind, Dak's been in the league for what? Now 4 or 5 years? It has not been very long that he's been in the NFL. But Dak Prescott just inked one of the largest deals in NFL history, one of the largest deals in NFL history that is not deserved, and is a large deal for a mediocre quarterback. 4-year deal, $160 million, with $126 million guaranteed, and he gets $75 million in the first year alone. That's the largest deal in NFL history, most for 1 year in NFL history. $75 million in year one alone of his contract. Now let's look at Dak's numbers. Is he worthy of $160 million? Look, I respect Dak. I think he is a class act. I think he's a great guy. And I'm not saying he's a bad quarterback. But he's a guy that just went 42-27 as a starter with the Dallas Cowboys, has played 4 full seasons with the Cowboys, has only got them to the playoffs twice, and has never gotten them past the divisional round. Let's think on that for a second. For a franchise that prides themselves on being America's team, they have not been to the NFC Championship since the mid to late 1990s when they won, 3 straight Super Bowls? 2 straight Super Bowls? Back with Aikman and Emmitt Smith and Michael Irvin. That's the last time they made the NFC Championship. That's the last time they were legit Super Bowl contenders. And now you just paid a quarterback that is just 15 games above 500, which some will say that's a lot, but really it's not. 42-27, has only made the playoffs twice in his 4-year career. You just paid him $160 million? $75 million in year one? What were you thinking? Dak is mediocre at best. And I know the Cowboys are thinking, oh, we've got Ezekiel Elliott, we've got Amari Cooper, we've got Michael Gallup, we've got the weapons there to make a run, maybe at some point, to win a Super Bowl. And I know Jerry Jones really, really wants one, hopefully here in the near future. But with the rise of talent across the league, with the fact of Tom Brady now being in the NFC, the fact that the NFC East was so weak this year and the Cowboys couldn't even win the division, yes, I know Dak got hurt, but still, Andy Dalton was a capable quarterback. And Zeke did absolutely nothing to help out his team. Do we really think that Dak was deserving of this much money? Was he really deserving? Absolutely not. The Cowboys front office probably should have held firm. They should have held strong, and they should have said, all right, we hear you. Maybe, $160 million, how about we cut that in half, give you $80 million, $90 million. I mean, come on, how greedy do you have to be, guys? Honestly, these NFL athletes, these NBA athletes, everybody wants the biggest contracts because it's not about playing for pride. It's not about playing because you love the game. It's because, oh, that guy got more money than I did. I'm better than him, even though Dak is nowhere near better than Deshaun Watson or Drew Brees or Tom Brady or Patrick Mahomes. But I deserve more money than them because I'm a quarterback. They're a quarterback. They're getting paid that much. Why am I not? It's become a money game now and not as much of a game. And that's a problem for me. We've got these athletes that are so greedy. And we've got your commoners out here, and we've got your other athletes on the Cowboys. I mean, Zeke, Cooper, Gallup, your top dogs on the Dallas Cowboys team aren't even getting paid nearly as much as this. You don't see them complaining. So Dak, I think, has been a little bit ungrateful. A little bit ungrateful. He held strong. The Cowboys held strong. It ended up being the Cowboys front office that caved first. And again, if I was the Cowboys, I would have said, look, you are the quarterback for America's team. We're going to pay you, maybe not this much. If you're going to complain about how much we're paying you, then you can kiss it goodbye. Go kiss that star goodbye. You'll no longer be the quarterback of America's team. That's a huge honor. That's a huge deal. Maybe I'm a little too harsh on this. Maybe I'm being a little too harsh on Dak. Maybe I'm being a little too harsh on the Cowboys. But you're averaging $40 million a year, 4-year, $160 million deal, $40 million a year. And I just don't think it's worth it for a guy that's just been mediocre over the course of his career, and a guy that I personally believe will not be the man. He will not be the man to lead the Dallas Cowboys to a Super Bowl. Where do you draw that line? And the final thing I want to talk on with free agency, again, is the fact that we're still early on in this series. We're still early on in the free agency period, but the New England Patriots have been making big pay after big pay, big move after big move. It's been unreal. And as a Patriot fan, I'm thrilled. And I don't have a problem saying that. But, you know, the biggest issue with the Patriots last year was we knew they were going to take a step back after the loss of Tom Brady. We thought they still might be a playoff team because Cam Newton, we thought, was a capable quarterback, and they still have Bill Belichick, the greatest coach in NFL history. Patriots failed to make the playoffs. Failed to make the playoffs for the first time since 2008, a year where Tom Brady went down with a torn ACL. Well, Bill Belichick took that personally, apparently. He not only took that personally, but he took Tom Brady winning the Super Bowl a little bit personally. The Patriots re-signed Cam Newton. Some fans were happy, some were not. But the biggest thing was get Cam Newton some weapons. That's exactly what they did. They just went out and signed Jonnu Smith, the tight end from the Tennessee Titans. They picked up Hunter Henry from the Los Angeles Chargers. A huge pickup, one of the best tight ends in the game right now. They've got Kendrick Bourne, the wide receiver from the 49ers. Nelson Aguilar from the Las Vegas Raiders. Julian Edelman hopefully will be back from his knee injury. So right there's 5 brand new weapons to go along with Cam Newton this year. On top of stacking up the defense, plenty of opt-outs coming back in like Patrick Chung, Dante Hightower. Now they add Jalen Mills, Matthew Judon, Dietrich Wise. All of those guys coming back on defense and those additions on defense. One man said, Rome was not built in a day, but the 2021 Patriots may have been. The Patriots will be back in the playoffs in 2021. We haven't even hit the NFL draft yet. Free agency period isn't even over yet. Patriots are still looking to make moves. They still may draft a quarterback. They still may draft some more pass-catching weapons. Bill Belichick took it personally, and he's about to turn the ship around in a very short amount of time. And with that being said, guys, that's the free agency period. That's the left football talk for the day. We've got one last segment. We'll make it brief. March Madness is right around the corner, and we've got a couple of Cinderella teams that you need to keep your eye on. So stay tuned. We'll touch on that here in the next minute.
At Arkansas State University, our students push the limits of learning. We collaborate with NASA in the clouds and discover new species below the sea. We grow healthier plants and plants for growing heart tissue. We preserve our history and teach the future. We work to ensure every red wolf flourishes, both in the wild and on campus, with faculty and staff dedicated to student success. Ready to push your limits? Go to astate.edu to join the pack.
When I was 10, my mom got deported. We had a difficult time, and I feel that's why I didn't get to finish school. My husband is really supportive in a way that he pushed me to go back to school.
She wants to have a career so her kids can look up to her.
They both keep me motivated to go to school, and they see that if I do it, like, they can do it too, you know? I feel that everything's possible.
Find free adult education classes near you at finishyourdiploma.org.
It's one of the best times of the year, March Madness. March Madness. And I was having withdrawals because we did not have March Madness last year. We did not have the NCAA tournament last year, and now it is finally back. So I'm not going to lie, when Greg Gumbel hopped on the TV Sunday night to announce this field of 64, I shed a tear. I shed a little bit of a tear. And today, I just want to go over a few Cinderella teams that could bust your brackets or make you look like a genius when picking your brackets. Again, the tournament starting Friday afternoon. So you look at the tournament this year, guys, and I want to briefly hit the 4 regions before we wrap things up today. Start out over in the West region. You want to look for some upsets? Look for California Santa Barbara over Creighton. The Blue Jays of Creighton, the 5 seed, now taking on a 12 seed, got annihilated by Georgetown in the Big East final. Annihilated. That's not a good way to end going into the NCAA tournament, where, again, one loss and you are done. They're facing off against a California Santa Barbara team that can shoot the ball extremely well. These mid-major schools are so hard to pick because no one watches them, especially out on the West Coast when they're playing their games at 10:30 or 11 at night. This is a team that can shoot. They're a team that's very physical. And if Creighton plays even about 50% better, that's not going to be enough. Creighton has to bring their A game that we saw for most of the season. Otherwise, UCSB, they're going to win. That 12 seed is going to advance all the way possibly to the Sweet 16 because Virginia, who will be out until Friday with COVID issues, is taking on a dangerous Ohio team, an Ohio team that only lost by 2 to a 1-seed Illinois earlier in the year. You could very well see California Santa Barbara, the 12, facing off against Ohio, the 13, in the round of 32, which will guarantee you that a 12 or 13 will be in the Sweet 16. This is a wild year, guys. Teams like Virginia and Kansas and many others that we have yet to see are going to be battling COVID issues all week long. Hopefully it will not come to the point where they have to be disqualified and removed from the tournament. There's a strong possibility that could happen. And because of the lack of practice, because of the lack of preparation, those teams could end up losing to a lower level seed. Creighton, Virginia are certainly one of them. In the East, Michigan is the favorite. They are the 1 seed. Watch out, they could lose in the round of 32 to LSU. A lot of people like St. Bonaventure over the Tigers, but LSU is a very physical team. They know how to shoot. Their defense has been impressive down the stretch. While they are a bunch of cheaters, and Will Wade should absolutely be locked up in jail, they very well should beat St. Bonaventure and could beat Michigan, who will be without their star player, Isaiah Livers. If you're looking for a 1-8 upset early in the year, early in the bracket, LSU-Michigan is your best bet. In the South, tons of possible upsets. Winthrop over Villanova, another 5-12 there. Villanova without their star player, Colin Gillespie. Winthrop only lost 1 time this year, 23-1 on the season. That's a very, very trendy 5-12 upset pick. And even if Villanova wins that game, they will not win in round 2, where they will most likely play Purdue. Arkansas, the Razorbacks, won 12 straight SEC games before falling in the SEC semifinals to LSU. Again, another reason why you might want to watch out for the Tigers. But Arkansas playing Colgate in a 3-14 matchup, that's a trendy upset pick too. A lot of national analysts think, hey, this could be a game that first 1 to 100 wins. Colgate's a very fast team. They are a very good shooting team. Their defensive efficiency, though, is terrible. If you're thinking about picking that as an upset, you might want to think again. Because Arkansas is just as fast and just as physical as Colgate, but they can play defense. And Arkansas should advance to the round of 32, where they will play Texas Tech or Utah State. And then finally, in the Midwest, the biggest storyline to me is not the 1 seed. It's not, who's going to come out of it. It's the fact that Oklahoma State was underseeded. Oklahoma State hit their stride at the right time. They looked unstoppable with future number 1 NBA pick Cade Cunningham. They seeded them as a 4 seed. They were a 3 seed at worst, but they gave them a 4. I thought they might even be a 2. So you think Oklahoma State's going to be happy with that? Absolutely not. Their first game's against Liberty in that 4-13 matchup. If they win that, they play the winner of Tennessee or Oregon State. Oklahoma State should win that, and in the Sweet 16, there's a good chance they'll play number 1 Illinois, the number 1 seed in the Midwest. Watch out. That very well could be an upset, guys. Oklahoma State, prior to the Big 12 championship, was playing as well as anybody in the country. And I have a feeling this is a team that you could very well see on the final weekend of the year in the Final Four. And as for the Final Four, I've got Gonzaga making it. I've got the winner of Texas and Alabama making it. I think Michigan fails to make it this year. So the winner of Texas, Alabama slips in there. And then Baylor and Illinois. The 3-1 seeds and a 2, maybe a 3. Who knows? It's going to be madness. I'm making about 100 brackets anyway, so my Final Four is always changing. But I cannot wait for things to get started. It just feels so good to finally have March Madness back. And guys, that'll do us for us right here at Red Wolf Roundtable. It feels good to have March Madness back. Felt good to have Red Wolf Roundtable back. I hope you enjoyed this episode. I hope you enjoyed us cramming as much information as we could into this 30-minute span. But we want to thank you all so much for joining us. This will not be the last time we're here. Plenty more episodes coming out later on this semester. But that'll do us for us here, right here on Red Wolf Roundtable. Have a great day, everybody.